So without further ado, let's begin. So Princeton is located in central New Jersey in a residential campus community with a thriving downtown. The land on which the university stands is part of the ancient homeland and traditional territory of the Lenape people. We pay respect to Lenape people's past, present, and future, and their continuing presence in the homeland and throughout the Lenape diaspora. Now, while we are in a suburban setting, we are never far from our neighboring cities. There is a train station on campus that can take you to and from New York City and Philadelphia. And we are also a train ride away from Newark International Airport, making it very easy for students to travel home for breaks. We were also chartered in 1746, which makes us the fourth oldest college in the United States. Now, the town of Princeton has about 30,000 residents, and the university and Princeton community are closely tied together. Here, you will see a photo from our community, which is a day to celebrate local artists, musicians, restaurants, and the relationship between Princeton University and the town of Princeton. You'll see the front entrance of campus, Fritz Randolph Gates, which faces the downtown of Princeton, New Jersey. Now, our campus features approximately 200 buildings on close to 600 acres of land and is very pedestrian friendly. You will often see students biking across campus, while we do have a bus system that really does make getting around campus easier, you can walk from one side of campus to the other in about 20 minutes. If you'd like to experience a walk around campus from the comfort of your own home, we do recommend that you take a virtual tour, and this link will be available to you in our follow-up email. Now, Princeton is focused on the undergraduate study. We have approximately 5,300 undergraduates and about 2,900 graduate students. And as you can see, the ratio of undergraduates to graduate students showcases the fact that our undergraduate students have a dominating presence on our campus. With 75% of our classes having fewer than 20 students, students receive individual attention from our faculty. And all faculty members come to Princeton to teach. Here, you see our James S. McDonald Distinguished University Professor of African American Studies, Eddie Glaude Jr., who's the chair of the African American Studies Department leading an undergraduate seminar. It is truly an amazing opportunity to be able to create and build academic bonds, even as a first-year student fresh out of high school with world-class faculty members. We are committed to enrolling bright, talented, and ambitious students from around the world. Likewise, the university is committed to bringing Princeton some of the most prominent academics in the United States and abroad. Our faculty boasts 10 Nobel Prize winners in addition to field medalists, MacArthur Fellows, Pulitzer Prize winners, and even a former U.S. Poet Laureate. These prize-winning professors teach undergraduate students. One of our physics professors who was awarded a Nobel Prize teaches an introductory physics course. Our university president, Chris Eisgruber, a member of the class of 1983, loves to emphasize that when we hire faculty, he makes it clear that they are here first and foremost to teach undergraduates. Research comes second. And seen here is our Pulitzer Prize winning author, Jubil Lahiri, director of the program in creative writing. Now, research opportunities for students are available as early as their first year. In a more formal fashion, students can connect with the Office of Undergraduate Research to learn of opportunities. But informally, many reach out to faculty members directly to join the research initiatives. Princeton's unique academic structure ensures that a student's education is grounded in the liberal arts with ample opportunities to conduct large-scale original research on a level that many students outside of Princeton don't have a chance to do until graduate school. At Princeton, every student is required to complete a senior thesis, a culminating project before they graduate in a field of their choosing. It is a major research paper, but we really like to call it a passion project. It really marks your transition from a consumer of knowledge in your field to a contributor of knowledge. Now, the theses are typically either paper-based, performance-based, or project-based. They can take on many different shapes and forms, from studying how data from Twitter can help to make stock market predictions, or to producing a written musical and performing it on campus. Every student is guided through the process by a faculty mentor, so if you're embarking on the senior thesis, it can seem intimidating, but please know that you will have support from faculty and your advisors every step of the way. And you'll see here in this photo, we have the Princeton Institute for the Science and Technology of Materials, short for PRISM, and it really does offer high-end, state-of-the-art instrumentation and expertise. So again, just a lot of great opportunities for our first-year students. Now, the student you see here, smiling from ear to ear, has finished his operations research and financial engineering thesis entitled Bitcoin, Currency, or Commodity, a look into classifying everybody's favorite cryptocurrency. This occasion, a Princeton senior with their completed and bound thesis in front of Nassau Hall, is actually one of many traditions at Princeton, and it's a fun sight to see. You might be wondering, but how will I know what field of study to research? A Princeton education is designed to give you time to explore before making a decision about which concentration to pursue. At Princeton, concentration can actually be thought of as a major. However, you will only have one concentration because of the senior thesis. There is no double majoring at Princeton. Now we have 37 concentrations and 55 certificate programs. Certificates are designed to allow students to become proficient in other areas outside of their concentration, and they don't necessarily have to align. So for example, someone concentrating in computer science can seek certificates in journalism or music theater. We also have 2 degree types. About 75% of our students seek an AB or Bachelor of Arts degree, while about 25% seek a BSc or Bachelor of Science and Engineering degree. Our AB students have until the end of their sophomore year to declare a concentration, and our BSc students have until the end of their first year to declare. Now, about a third of your coursework at Princeton will count toward your concentration, another third will count towards your certificates, and a final third will usually be dedicated to completing your distribution requirements, which our students will discuss in more detail. Think of this distribution requirement as general education requirements. And now Princeton students do have the opportunity to study abroad. About 55% of Princeton students participate in some kind of university-sponsored international experience lasting 1 month or longer. And Princeton accepts credit for more than 100 programs and universities in more than 40 countries. One of our most popular options is our global seminars. This is a 6-week summer program that's led by Princeton faculty. It's an immersive Princeton course in another country. Recent courses actually include Contemporary Chinese Society in Beijing, Vienna, Birthplace of Psychoanalysis, Modernism and World War I, as well as documentary filmmaking in Kenya, techniques in visual storytelling on wildlife and wildlands conservation. Now, one of the hallmarks of the Princeton experience is living on campus in one of our 6 residential colleges, a collection of dorms, dining halls, and advising offices that serves about 200 first-year students. We consider the residential experience to be transformative and educational in a way that complements the academic experience at Princeton. Housing is guaranteed all 4 years at Princeton, and your residential college is the first community you'll be a part of upon enrolling. It's also one that you'll remain connected to all 4 years. And about 96% of our students live on campus, which really does showcase just how cohesive our student body is. And in this photo, you'll see here is actually one of our residential colleges. You'll see here students are entering into Rocky College, which is short for Rockefeller College on our campus. Now, our student tour guides will talk more about getting involved outside of the classroom, but we just wanted to note that our students are actively engaged in organizations and projects beyond their studies. We have more than 300 student organizations ranging from performing arts to debate to community service, plus 37 Division I varsity sports teams, in addition to club and intramural sports. We also have 17 religious chaplaincies and countless ways to stay active in your areas of passion or find new ones on campus. And pictured here, you'll see our all-male a cappella group titled Old Nassau, Not Soul, and they usually dedicate a lot of their music to R&B and soul music. Now, Princeton is committed to creating a vibrant and diverse student community, and we define diversity in many ways. When we assemble a class, we are looking for diversity of thought, ethnic, cultural, and religious diversity, socioeconomic diversity, geographic diversity, and diversity of academic interests. Our student body consists of students from all 50 states and more than 100 countries. 46% of our students identify as students of color, and just under 16% are the first in their families to attend college. Now, there are a number of campus support centers and resources specifically focused on making Princeton a more inclusive place, including the Carl A. Field Center for Equality and Cultural Understanding and the Programs for Access and Inclusion. These support centers help students across intersectional identities and help to reinforce the importance of community and belonging on our campus. And actually, in the photo here, this is an explanation of social economic difference at Princeton, which is part of the first year residential experience, and it's called Princeton Money and Me. As previously mentioned, Princeton has distribution requirements that can be thought of as general education requirements. There are eight general categories that students must take, 1 to 2 courses per category to complete their requirements. Some of the categories are literature and the arts, quantitative analysis, epistemology and cognition, and most recently, Princeton established a new general education requirement in the area of culture and difference. These courses focus on how human beings experience the world through our respective cultures, the ideas, meanings, norms, and habituations that are represented in the arts and literature, laws and institutions, and social practices of human societies. The general education requirement embeds an appreciation for diverse perspectives with the curriculum exposing all students, no matter the concentration, to these important topics. And in this photo, this is actually the senior class Step Sing, which takes place on Sunday evening, and this has been a part of the traditional senior celebration for more than a century. It is an informal event that's led by seniors in which the class members and their guests participate, and songs are chosen by the senior class to reflect their Princeton experience. Now, service and civic engagement are central to the Princeton experience as reflected in the university's informal motto, Princeton in the nation's service and the service of humanity. Various elements of the university's mission, such as educating students, discovering new knowledge, and developing students' character, have a common end goal to improve the community and world around us. 60% of students will have engaged in a volunteer activity by the time they graduate, either through the Pay Center for Civic Engagement, or student group, or even campus organization. And pictured here is our community action, which is a small group experience of the Princeton orientation, which is actually coordinated by the Pay Center for Civic Engagement. Now, our efforts to serve the public good are evident through direct activities such as food drives and tutoring, but they're also woven through courses and research, from studying languages to research about climate change. Students can learn about how to contribute to society during their time on campus. For some students, their immersion in service begins before they even arrive at Princeton. Admitted students have the opportunity to take part in our No Regrets Bridge Year program, which is a Princeton-sponsored service-oriented gap year that places you in another country with a host family and a support structure as you complete 9 months of a service project. This year is an exception due to COVID-19. So typically, students will be placed into one of 5 programs, and in the past, students could travel to either Bolivia, China, India, Indonesia, or Senegal. These locations are subject to change from time to time. And in this photo you'll see is Charles Miller, class of 18, and this is during MLK Day of Service, where he's reading the illustrated book, Martin's Big Words, to a group of preschool students at Princeton's nursery school. Now, from students' first days on campus for orientation to the final days leading into graduation, Princeton's Office of Dean of Undergraduate Students, as well as the Pay Center for Civic Engagement, seeks to teach students why and how to be engaged in meaningful, sustained service. Service activities are followed by discussions addressing the underlying policy issues, meetings with community groups, trainings on how to assess the impact of their work, and greater opportunities for reflecting on service. Now, when you join the Princeton community, you are entering a lifelong relationship with the institution, and with the color orange, of course. Every year, more than 25,000 Princeton alumni return for reunions, which is definitely the most exciting and pride-filled weekend of the year. Here, you see recent graduates from the class of 2016 participating in the P-Raid, or Princeton Parade, through campus during reunions. This photo really does capture the essence of the pride that students and alumni have for Princeton. And our students find great success after finishing their 4 years at Princeton, and we're proud that the connections they've made with the community, their peers, and faculty and staff keep them coming back each year for reunions. Within 6 months of graduation, 75% of our graduates are employed and 19% are in graduate school. Acceptance rate of Princeton graduates to med school is between 85 and 90%. Princeton has a 97% graduation rate, which is well above the national average as well. Now, another big part of ensuring the success of our students is our commitment to financial aid and affording a Princeton education. At Princeton, we are proud to offer one of the nation's most generous financial aid programs. The goal of our financial aid program is to ensure that no one removes Princeton from consideration because they feel it is unaffordable. We truly strive to be affordable for all for our students and their families. And we want you to be able to focus on your studies and growth rather than on a looming financial burden upon graduation. Princeton has the same financial aid policy for all students regardless of citizenship or citizenship status and their ability to pay the cost of attendance. We are committed to meeting 100% of demonstrated need of the duration of a student's Princeton career, and we will reevaluate a family's need each year. The average grade for the class of 2023 is $56,500, which is more than the cost of tuition. Princeton was the first university in the country to institute a no-loan financial aid policy. Our financial aid comes in the form of a grant, which again is not a loan and money you do not have to pay back. About 83% of our students graduate free of debt. And for those who do graduate with debt, the average is around $9,000, usually because they've taken out an extra loan to pay for items like a personal computer. The national average is nearly $30,000. So roughly about 61% of Princeton students receive financial aid. And you are never at a disadvantage in our admission process if you need financial aid. It is important to note that it is also important to note that we do not offer merit or athletic scholarships. So again, this is strictly grant-based aid, and that is need-based. And if you want to explore more about our financial aid, please check out our website and our financial aid estimator. So hopefully by this time, you're all wondering what the next steps are in the application process. We'll go through all of the pieces of the application, but I'd like to note that they are all listed in the application checklist section of our website. First and foremost, Princeton practices holistic admission. And what that means is that we are looking at every aspect of your application, whether it's your essays, what others are saying about you, or even your extracurriculars. In the application review process, we consider questions like, how will the student contribute to the academic community at Princeton? We also ask questions like, how will the student participate in the greater Princeton experience? Will the applicant make a good roommate? It is important to note that there are no quotas, no cutoffs, no minimum grades, rank, or test scores, and no one section is defined a fixed weight. We are not evaluating you through an arbitrary or standardized lens. Instead, we take on a highly individualized review of each applicant and their portfolio. We want to know how students have challenged themselves in their academic context and setting. We are always looking for reasons to admit students. Now, to be considered for admission, we ask that you submit the items you see listed here. You may apply to Princeton using either the coalition application or the common application. The content is the same and there is no advantage to using one application or the other. We are also a QuestBridge partner school. We also ask you to submit the Princeton supplement, which is another set of questions and essays designed to help us to get to know you even better. We require a graded paper, preferably in the subjects of English or history, to be submitted by all applicants to the university. It should be from the previous 3 years of schooling and no longer than 5 pages or 1,000 words. Further information regarding this paper is available on our website. Now, there are a few items you need to request from a school official or from teachers. Your school must send us a school report and official transcript. Your academic transcript is the most important document in your application. The combination of your high school profile, course selection, and grades will tell us how you challenge yourself in the context of your high school setting. We also ask for a letter from your school counselor as well as 2 teacher recommendations from core academic subject areas. These subject areas include English, math, science, history, or a foreign language. And in this most recent cycle for the incoming class of 2025, we chose to pause on our early action program and standardized testing requirements to accommodate the hardship presented by the COVID-19 pandemic. We are continuing to monitor the situation and we will make a definitive announcement about our application deadlines and requirements for applicants to the class of 2026 in spring of 2021. Until then, first-year applicants should plan to submit standardized testing for additional, until then, first-year applicants should plan to submit standardized testing. Now, for additional information about how COVID-19 will affect our policies in the upcoming cycles, please visit our website. Additionally, our transfer applicants may visit the transfer student section under how to apply for information and updates as well. So please continue to monitor our website for any updates as well. Additionally, Princeton will continue to partner with QuestBridge and participate in the National College Match in December, and transfer applicants will have an application deadline of early March. Please note that we do not require subject tests, and also we have 2 optional components in the application. An alumni interview and our art supplement for students who'd like to submit a portfolio for consideration. And last but not least, I would just like to say thank you so much. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the Q&A box. Me and my colleague will be answering any questions that you may have. But at this point in time, I would like to invite our tour guides on the screen so that they can give you a little bit more information from the student context about Princeton University. So I will transition it over and we'll be good. Okay.
Awesome.
All right.
I will begin by sharing our presentation. And we can start from there. Okay, can you see this, Brad?
Looks good.
Cool. Okay. So hi everyone, my name is Emilio, and my fellow tour guide here, Brad, and I will be taking you guys through a little bit of what being a student is like at Princeton, and just telling you stories about the student experience with this presentation we have prepared. So we will start with some introductions, and I will begin. So like I said, my name is Emilio. I am a sophomore at Princeton, class of 2023. I was born and raised in Bogota, Colombia, and I moved to Bethesda, Maryland, which is just outside of Washington, D.C. not too long ago, and that's where I went to high school. At Princeton, I am majoring in civil and environmental engineering and pursuing minors in sustainable energy, computer science, and statistics, machine learning. On campus, I am very involved in athletics. I am the vice president of the men's club soccer team, and in addition to that, I participate in a number of intramural sports, ranging from soccer to basketball to dodgeball, anything you could think of. I am also part of Orange Key, which is our student tour guide organization on campus. And last, I am also involved with the High Meadows Environmental Institute, which is a department on campus that funds lots of research in environmental studies and sustainability. And I can talk a little bit more about it later if anyone has any questions.
Hey guys, it's very great to be in this session with you. I wish you the best of luck. I know that this is a difficult time, but rest assured that you will get through this. My name is Bradley. I'm a sophomore from a town called Chatham, New Jersey. It's about an hour north of Princeton, and I study mechanical and aerospace engineering. Since I was young, I've wanted to fly fighter jets and become an astronaut. So therefore, I participate in Air Force ROTC, and then I also work with Business Today and create pieces for the Daily Princetonian, in addition to some other aerospace activities and providing tours, which I am very excited to do for you all today.
Cool, so let's get started. Brad, do you want to start with some academics?
Sure thing. So perhaps, one of the biggest reasons why you're looking at Princeton as an institution is for its academic providing. Without a doubt, this is an amazing school, and that is due to many factors which you see here on screen. Firstly, our liberal arts curriculum. Emilio and I are both STEM majors. We both study engineering. But it's really amazing that we can explore all of what Princeton has to offer, from its amazing economics department and history, even though we have many classes which are math and science focused. When I was looking at other institutes of technology, I was very scared to see that anything outside of a math and science class was basically forgotten about. However, Princeton could not be further from this. We have the smallest student-to-faculty ratio in the entire Ivy League, and over 27 of our professors are Nobel laureates. Through the liberal arts curriculum, Princeton has a varying degree of distribution requirements, as you heard about in the information session, and these are things like social analysis, historical analysis, language and the arts, which prompt students to get a little bit outside of their comfort zone and explore things they might not have otherwise. So for instance, I look forward to taking a hip-hop dance class, but then I also studied Aristotelian philosophy, and you do that all as an engineering student, which is pretty exciting. I've been constantly impressed with the opportunities that Princeton has provided. One of our first weeks freshman year, the president of Ghana visited campus and provided a presentation to the student body. And then we just so happened to bump into Neil deGrasse Tyson one day in the science library when he was writing a book on his astrophysics research. So these are all really exciting. Additionally, Princeton is a very undergraduate-focused university. Every professor that comes to our school is required to teach an undergraduate class. Now, what does that mean? In other schools, where the professor might just want to come and do their research and be selfish, Princeton, on the other hand, requires that teacher to teach an undergraduate class. So you know that your professor is walking into that classroom excited to tell you about his or her work, and you are going to walk out with a better understanding of the material. We have no business, law, or medical school, so all of that attention and all of that resource is allocated straight to our undergraduates, first year through senior year. Lastly, independent research is a huge part of our time here at Princeton. Not only are we expected to understand the current work in the field, but you also need to contribute a little bit of your own studies. So therefore, students will go through their time at Princeton, walk out with a senior thesis, which is, their own sort of academic contribution to their coursework. Students in the mechanical and aerospace department do projects like having a flying drone evade tracker drones and figuring out how to sense where these are coming from and then fly and evade it. Or, just other forms of hovercraft, planes, and even calculating airflows of things like COVID-19 particles over transparent boundaries. So these are all things, and those senior projects are kept in the library so students can go and look at senior projects, everything from Michelle Obama to Steve Forbes if you wanted.
Yeah, and to add to that, I'm going to tell you guys a little story about some of my experiences with academics at Princeton, specifically with the distribution requirements that Brad was talking about. In high school, I knew I wanted to be an engineer, so a lot of the classes that I took were in math and physics, chemistry, and other natural sciences. And because of that, I never really had the opportunity or even the interest to take a class in the social sciences, for example. And when I got to Princeton, I chose a schedule that most resembled what I had taken in high school, but because of those distribution requirements, I was forced to take a class in the social sciences. And I ended up choosing an urban studies class and expected it to be a class that I just had to get through in order to graduate. However, this class ended up being one of my favorite classes of my second semester at Princeton. We learned about numerous issues that cities all around the globe are facing, and even got the chance to view these issues under the context of the coronavirus, which was very interesting. The class provided me with a new, valuable way of thinking that was very different from the straightforward, logical thinking that I was used to with math and science. And my favorite thing about the class, though, was that even though it had nothing to do with engineering, it still inspired me to think about ways I can use my civil and environmental engineering degree in the future to help combat some of these issues that cities are facing. And I find that that is the case with all the distribution requirement classes at Princeton. They provide you with a well-rounded education that can help you in whatever field you end up deciding to pursue. Next semester, for example, I will be taking a digital animation class, which fulfills my literature and arts requirement. And I'm excited to learn about creative ways to, for example, visualize data, something which is very closely related to my statistics minor. So moving on, now we will talk a little bit about residential life at Princeton and the residential college system. Princeton has 6 residential colleges, which are essentially smaller centers of community for underclassmen at Princeton. The philosophy is that by having a smaller community that students belong to, they can form stronger and longer-lasting relationships with their classmates. Furthermore, residential colleges provide various supports and activities to help students transition into college life. For example, they all have a dean of studies who is there to answer any questions a student may have about academics at Princeton. There is also a director of student life who is there to organize events such as movie nights, capture the flag, even trips to Broadway to ensure that students are interacting outside of the classroom. Also, there are peer advisors, which are juniors and seniors who are there to provide support to freshmen and sophomores. For example, each hall of students will have a residential college advisor who is an upperclassman that lives on the same hall as the students and is there to provide all sorts of support, whether it's academic, emotional, social, etc. My residential college advisor taught me how to make my bed, how to do laundry, all the college essentials. There are also peer academic advisors who are upperclassmen in charge of helping incoming students pick their classes for the next year, and residential graduate students who can help answer questions about grad school and career paths, etc. There's just a lot of supports for students in these residential colleges. The summer before your first year, you will be randomly assigned a residential college and you will live there for your first 2 years. You will fill out a survey listing your preferences as to what type of room you want to live in, what your sleeping and studying habits are like, etc. Using this information, the director of student life at your residential college will handpick a roommate for you, someone that you will be compatible with and who will enhance your first year experience. If you look at this picture at the bottom right of the screen, that is me and my freshman year roommate, Brad, who is on this tour with us in our freshman dorm. We were put together because Princeton thought we would be compatible, and we ended up becoming the closest of friends. And I find that that is true with most of the roommate pairings at Princeton. Everyone really ends up being very close to the roommate they get randomly assigned. Or not randomly, but they get chosen with. And last, If you are an upperclassman, you can either stay in your residential college for your junior and senior year, or you can move to upperclassmen housing on campus. You can also move off campus. However, 96% of students do stay on campus all 4 years because they love the community that Princeton's campus fosters.
Right. I also want to touch base on a very important statistic at the top of the screen. It's very incredible to see that 96% of students live on campus all 4 years. Well, that will differ slightly with this year's proceedings. In a typical semester, when 96% of students are on that campus, it is amazing to be walking to class and see all your friends on the way. It is super easy to organize study sessions or trips to the library, and it's never been easier to grab a meal at one of the amazing dining halls on campus, all because students are so close and really enjoy living in this place. So not only is it great to be a student at Princeton, but it's also a great experience to live at Princeton.
Yep. And why don't you tell us a little bit about dining on campus?
Right. So I've had a tremendous experience with the dining halls on campus. I really do mean it. One thing that you should note is that all of the residential colleges have a respective residential college dining hall. However, just if you are in one college, that doesn't mean you are restricted to your college. You're able to eat at any of the dining halls throughout all of the residential colleges, and even at the Center for Jewish Life, which is where I love to grab an afternoon lunch. Each residential college will also have a very particular meal, which is just legendary. Here at Whitman, we are known for our chicken pot pie, but you could go across the street to Forbes College on a Sunday morning and experience their chocolate fountain or acai bowls, and there are just many delicious options. One thing that me and my friends like to do is go onto the website called Tiger Menus, and you can actually see what's being served for every meal every day of the week, and plot out where you want to go for a meal. It's very common to, grab a meal with maybe a club that you're in, or a team dinner, or a dance team, or something like that. It's also very common to, sit down at the dining hall and work on some homework or problems with friends. I've had some amazing conversations at the dinner table, everything from the economy of Club Penguin to taking over the world, and there's never, a dull moment at those experiences. When you transition to your upperclassmen years, your junior and senior years, your options open up a little bit. You are able to, for instance, go independent, which means that you shop for groceries and are able to cook in a kitchen, whether that's in your room or in your dorm hall. You can also join a co-op, and co-ops are groups of people that rotate who cooks. And, there are different co-ops for different people interested in different sorts of meals, like the Meat Lovers Club, or, more vegetarian options. And you are able to, rotate cooking, and those are always really tight groups as well. Or you can join an eating club. There are, many eating clubs on Prospect Avenue, and those eating clubs serve as a place for upperclassmen to eat their meals. They also serve as some of the nightlife on the weekends.
Yeah, and one thing I'd like to add about dining, and specifically the eating clubs, is that, in the previous slide, I talked to you guys about residential colleges being sort of the centers of community for freshmen and sophomores, and it's very common that the eating clubs become those smaller centers of communities once someone becomes a junior or a senior. In addition to being the place where you eat, they also have libraries, game rooms, TV rooms, living rooms, all sorts of places that students can go to just hang out, to study with friends, and really ensure that everyone has a smaller community that they can be a part of while they're a student at Princeton. And now we'll move on a little bit into student life. Princeton is really a place that is mainly known for its academics, so I was pleasantly surprised to see just how much there is to do at Princeton outside of the classroom. There are over 300 student groups, everything ranging from the beekeeping club to dance and theater groups to even a bad movies club where students literally gather to watch the worst movies they can find. These groups are always hosting events on campus, so there is literally always something to do if you want to take a break from studying while you're at Princeton. You can go to dance shows, athletic events, improv comedy shows, theater performances, anything you can think of. And if you have a passion that is not already represented by any of the existing clubs at Princeton, it is actually really easy to start your own club. For example, my roommate Brad here is the co-founder of the Minecraft Club at Princeton, and they actually got the university to fund a 24-hour server so students can play Minecraft at 4 a.m. It just goes to show how much Princeton does to ensure that students have the resources they need to not only succeed academically, but also be happy and entertained. Regarding athletics, Princeton is a D1 school with 3 levels of sports. The top level is varsity, which practices pretty much every day and travels all across the country to compete. The second level is the club level, which is the one I am in. Most clubs practice 2 to 3 times a week and compete on the weekends against nearby universities. With my club soccer team, we traveled sometimes to Pennsylvania, to New York City, all across New Jersey. And last is the intramural level, which is the most relaxed. The commitment is about an optional 1 or 2 hours a week, and all the competition is amongst Princeton students, so there is no traveling.
Yeah, there's plenty of exciting student life opportunities, as Emilio mentioned here. In addition to the Minecraft Club, I actually also joined the Sea Shanty Club, where we meet and sing sea shanties together. And that reminds me that I want to talk about some of the creative arts opportunities here at Princeton. Through student life, there are so many musical groups, dance groups, choruses, and orchestras that it would make your mind throb, really. There are a constant array of dance shows. If you ever walk through the Center for Student Life called Frist Campus Center, you'll see people trying to sell you tickets to their dance shows. And I've seen more dance my freshman year than I have the rest of my life, because you always love seeing what students can do at these shows. We're also very much known for our step sings, which is when a cappella groups will gather under the university's Gothic architecture and sing songs, and it projects really nicely through the architecture. We're also very famous for Triangle. This is a performing arts club that has been around for more than 100 years. They actually write, direct, and act and perform all of their own plays and musicals. F. Scott Fitzgerald is actually a well-known author of some of the early shows of Triangle, and during a normal year, Triangle would actually tour up and down the East Coast performing their show all the way down to Florida. So not only are there exciting athletic, academic opportunities, but you can also explore to your heart's content in terms of creative arts as well.
Yep. And sort of related to that, do you want to talk about the campus community at Princeton?
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been so pleased with all the opportunities there are in terms of just sharing campus and Tiger Pride. One thing that you might see in the bottom left here, this is called the Clash of the Colleges. There is a great passion for all of the residential colleges. Whitman, which is the college that Emilio and I are in, which is obviously the best college. We're the Whitman Whales, and we are the winner of the Clash of the Colleges 2 years in a row here. The Clash of the Colleges is a great time where there's relay races, egg races, chanting and things like that, just to really build that Princeton spirit very early on into your orientation experience. One thing which I was also surprised about is the day that you move in. You're moving in, you're doing all of your typical orientation activities, but then when night falls, you go into this big courtyard of the English and Foreign Languages department. Princeton brings in Ben & Jerry's caterers, a personal DJ, light show, lights up the whole thing. And there's like this ice cream social dance party rave with 1,000 of your newest friends that you had no idea was going to happen at Princeton, of all places. So I've been so pleased with what has been available with the campus community. I'm also very thankful for the diversity at this school. You talk about places like the LGBT Center or the Women's Center, and it's amazing to see how many people of different backgrounds there are. When I was talking about eating meals, for instance, I love to sit down and listen and hear where someone is from, for instance. Lastly, it's been amazing to see how the campus community extends beyond the geographical area of Princeton. For instance, this past summer when I was doing an internship with Business Today, it was my job to have Zoom calls with executives at various companies. And through Princeton Connections, I was able to speak to the CEO of Virgin Galactic, the High Meadows Foundation, which actually donated that environmental center, in addition to so many other very exciting alumni. So I've been very pleased with the community here on campus.
And I saw there was a question earlier about traditions at Princeton. Do you want to talk about the bonfire?
Absolutely. Yeah. So in terms of traditions, there are so many great things to being a part of this school. One of the best things is when we beat our two rivals, Harvard and Yale, in the same football season. We'll actually have this giant bonfire at the Cannon Green. Students will, paint little things and spray paint on these wooden pallets that we burn. Things like Harvard is a safety school, or like tigers eat bulldogs, things like that. It's just a great way to build campus community. And then, of course, when we actually celebrated the 150th anniversary of college football this past year, we took the train to Yankee Stadium and got to see Princeton play Dartmouth in football, which was a really exciting time.
Cool. We can move on and talk a little bit about the opportunities that Princeton offers to its students. And for this section, I like to just tell a story about my experiences with studying abroad in the university's undergraduate focus. During my first semester at Princeton, I took a freshman seminar, which is a class of about 15 first-year students that deeply explores a certain topic through robust discussion. There are freshman seminars in all sorts of topics, ranging from history to science to philosophy, which just highlights the general broad scope of courses available at Princeton in general. My freshman seminar specifically was in the field of environmental studies, studying how climate change is affecting crop growth around the world. We spent the first 6 weeks of the course looking at climate data and learning the computer skills necessary to analyze that data. Then we actually had the opportunity to travel to Italy for free during our fall break to study how olive trees are being impacted by climate change. We spent the entire week traveling all over southern Italy and visiting dozens of olive orchards. We measured things such as tree height, tree diameter, the soil color, acidity around the trees, etc. We even had the chance to fly a drone over each olive orchard and take images of the trees in order to evaluate the health of their tree canopies. And after we got back to Princeton, we spent the rest of the semester analyzing all the data we collected and writing our own original research papers about the observations we made. It was an amazing experience because it introduced me to the process of scientific research right off the bat during my first semester. I think that this opportunity was very unique and only available to me because of Princeton's undergraduate focus. Other schools would never really make an effort to give opportunities like these to first semester freshmen, but because of Princeton's undergraduate focus, the university actively provides all undergraduate students of all years with the financial and educational resources to pursue opportunities like these. Furthermore, there are also many other opportunities to study abroad while you're at Princeton. Global seminars, for example, are opportunities to take Princeton courses taught by Princeton professors over the summer while in a country that is related to the course. For example, I know one of my soccer teammates was going to travel to Brazil last summer with his professor and classmates in order to take an upper-level Portuguese course, but it got canceled because of the coronavirus. There's also an international internship program at Princeton, which connects students with companies all over the world that are eager to offer them internships over the summer. And of course, on top of all of this, you will also find your traditional semester abroad study programs being offered at Princeton. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is alumni engagement. Princeton has an enormous network of passionate alumni that are very involved with the university. Every year, Princeton hosts reunions, which is an event where thousands of alumni come back to campus and rock their orange and black with their old classmates. The fact that all these people are so eager to come back to campus yearly shows you just how passionate they are about the university and how much they enjoyed their time as students. These alumni are actively looking to hire students for internships and jobs after graduation, so being a student here will provide you with just so many opportunities moving forward in the future.
In terms of some of these opportunities in my experience, I remember my freshman fall when we were all being shipped home due to the pandemic. And as Zoom classes were wrapping up, I was involved in a very introductory level physics class being taught by an amazing professor. And as one of our final classes was wrapping up in our small, like 10 or 15 person precept session, we're, talking about the final, and then the professor ends class by saying, yeah, so this pandemic has all hit us very hard, so just reach out to me if you need a job or if you want to hang out in my lab over the summer. It was very exciting to see that, in a time of immense financial difficulty and economic struggle, Princeton professors are offering jobs to, any one of their students who are interested. I also had a great study abroad opportunity when in my freshman seminar class, on Patagonia, we were studying how Patagonia, the landscape in Argentina, was actually building this brand, Patagonia, the clothes wear. And we were planning to go to Patagonia in Argentina over spring break and work on a project with indigenous people and filming the landscape and talking about how this has developed and Antarctic tourism and all of these things. While unfortunately that was canceled due to the pandemic, I look forward to many of these travel opportunities in the future.
Awesome. And we like to end our little tours just telling you why we chose Princeton. Brad, do you want to go first?
Sure thing. Yeah. As I mentioned in the start of my presentation here, we were very interested in finding a place for me to be able to pursue academic interests in mechanical and aerospace engineering, but also to be involved in service. To me, helping others has been such an important part of growing up, and it's something that I was really looking forward to doing at college. My initial thought was to go to the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, as I really wanted to fly planes and have a career in the military. However, what I realized about Princeton was not only was this a phenomenal academic institution where I could pursue class interests of things from, hip hop, dance to thermodynamics, I would also be able to serve my community and do all of these amazing things in a diverse group of people. I know that I never would have met the same people at Princeton as I would have at other schools. And I've had phenomenal opportunities in terms of bettering communities and seeing really how devoted people are to their studies. When we talk about the informal slogan of Princeton, which is Princeton in the nation's service and the service of humanity, you really see how dedicated students are to pursuing their passions. You have students that are civil and environmental majors like Emilio, who are working on solar panels in order to become a oil independent nation by some sort of timeline. Or you have classics majors who study the works of Aristotle and Socrates in hopes of applying those values to modern day life. Princeton is an exceedingly exciting academic institution, and I'm so pleased to be a part of this community here.
Awesome. And for me, I think there are two main things that brought me to Princeton. The first of which is the intellectual diversity on campus, something that Brad just touched on. As I've mentioned previously, I've known I wanted to go into engineering since high school. So a lot of the schools I was looking at were very technical schools focused on science. And as a STEM student, I knew that I was going to be taking classes in STEM, talking to professors in STEM, doing homework and research in STEM. So I didn't really want everyone around me to be in the same boat. I thought that would become rather monotonous. And at Princeton, only about 25% of the student body is in the engineering department, which means that 3 of every 4 different people I meet at Princeton have interests, experiences, and aspirations that are completely different from mine. This has led to some amazing conversations with other students at Princeton. I can sit down in the dining hall and sort of take a break from what I've been learning and immerse myself in the classes that all my friends are taking. And I think that intellectual diversity at Princeton, where everyone is passionate about different things, is very unique and special. It leads to a very collaborative environment where you're not only learning from your professors, but really also from your classmates and your peers. And the second thing that I really love about Princeton is that I think it has a perfect university campus location. The campus is suburban, which means it is extremely safe and comfortable to live in, not to mention absolutely beautiful. However, it is also just an hour train ride away from both New York City and Philadelphia, which provides students with the opportunity to escape into the city whenever they want. During my shortened freshman year, I was able to go to a concert in Madison Square Garden with Brad, shows on Broadway through my residential college, sporting events in Philadelphia, all while still living in a safe and relaxed campus environment. So I like to think that Princeton is sort of the best of both worlds, where you can have a safe and relaxed campus, but also lots of exciting cities nearby with Philadelphia and New York. So we will end this tour with answering your questions. This is actually a very spontaneous picture of Brad and I and 2 people in our hall. It was one day where we were all studying, and then we look out the window and we see this beautiful sunset happening. So we all ran outside. You can see I'm still just wearing flip-flops even though it's the middle of winter. And we went to this building, which is just next to Whitman. It's the Center for the Arts. and we just started taking these beautiful pictures in front of the sunrise or the sunset, and it was just a very good memory at Princeton. So, Brad, I saw earlier you wanted to answer a question about class sizes at Princeton, so do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely, yeah. This is a question we receive quite frequently, and it's amazing to see that there are a great diversity in terms of class sizes. Firstly, you should note that Princeton, does have lectures just as any other school would. So you're not going to go through Princeton maybe without seeing a class that has a somewhat large size. Our largest lecture hall can hold up to 400 students, though we rarely reach that capacity. In my experience, I've been in lectures with about 100 people. Those are, of course, very introductory level classes. The caveat to that is you are ensured a very personal experience. All of those lectures are followed up by a very personal and intimate precept session. Precepts are, intertwined and holding hands with those lecture sessions, where it gives you a great opportunity to talk to the professor or a high-ranking graduate student, to ask questions and make sure that your understanding of the material is to the best of your ability.
Yep. What's the social life like on campus, especially in terms of participation in activities like clubs, sports, student organizations, etc.? So I can start with this. Basically, everyone at Princeton joins a club that they're really passionate in, and that becomes a sort of small group of friends that they have from the beginning. For me, especially, that was club soccer, and I was able to try out as a freshman, and then throughout the semester, it was really nice to have that group of people that I could get meals with, that I could hang out with on the weekends and stuff like that. And it's also just nice to have something scheduled that is outside of, academics and work. Like, I would, for example, have practices Monday, Wednesday, and Friday nights, and it would be nice to sort of remind myself that, there are a lot of things to do at Princeton besides my homework and my problem sets, and, having that scheduled time outside is something that, outside of academics, is something that a lot of students enjoy having because it allows them to sort of take a break from academics. And in terms of social life on campus, because there are so many clubs like this, like I mentioned during the presentation, there's always stuff to do. You can go to dance shows, athletic events, all sorts of things, and you can go support your friends. It's very common for someone in a hall, for example, to tell everyone in their hall, yo, I have a dance performance on Friday, everyone come, and then everyone comes and supports them, and it's really just a supportive and amazing community. And another thing I'd like to add, which sort of ties to another question about traditions, is Brad sort of touched on this earlier. It's the Arch Sings, which is a very famous tradition in Princeton where a cappella groups stand below arches and sing. And it's really fascinating to be sort of walking home from the library at night. You're sort of done with your day. And then all of a sudden you just hear these amazingly talented students just singing in the middle of the night, and they're not really doing it because they expect an audience. They're not doing it in front of everyone. They're just doing it because they love it. And all sorts of students just are walking to their rooms, walking to the dining halls, walking to the library, and they stop and listen. And it's just an amazing experience that you get at Princeton just because people are so talented in so many different things.
I see that Kayla's back here on camera, and she's indicated that we can answer a few questions live if you want to read some out to us.
Let's see. Okay, so one was for both of you, the one thing that you really need to know about attending Princeton, but won't find out until you actually get there.
Right. So I think I was, so of course you need to understand things that, might not be talked about in a tour information session. For me, one thing was truly how much homework there is, how much work there is to do for these academic classes. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Going to this school is a lot of work, and you need to be expected to spend a lot of time studying and doing homework. That being said, I found great success in terms of going to office hours, studying in the library with friends, and more importantly, just getting a group together to do some homework with your peers in those classes. I find that Princeton has such a collaborative nature where students truly want to help one another to succeed. So while I would say, Ian, that there was a lot of classwork to do, I always had exactly what I needed to get it done.
Yeah, awesome. And sort of adding on to that, for me, something that was sort of surprising about Princeton was that on top of all that classwork that you do have to do, just how much students are doing outside of it. I sort of expected that, if you're taking so many classes and have so much homework, you're going to spend a lot of time at the library, reading books, doing homework, spend a lot of long nights, all-nighters and stuff like that. And although those things do happen because all students are motivated to do well in school, I was very surprised at how much students do outside of that. Like I've mentioned a couple times, through their clubs, performances, and how passionate they are about things outside of the classroom. And that, like Brad was saying, leads to a very collaborative environment where everyone has different passions and different talents, and bringing all those different people together in one campus leads to so many opportunities for collaboration. One example off the top of my head about how collaborative Princeton's campus is the McGraw Center for Tutoring, for peer tutoring actually, and this is when sort of a student that did very well in a class can sign up to be a tutor for that class and offer tutoring to other students who maybe aren't doing so well in that class. And that just goes to show you how willing students are to help each other and not bring each other down. The fact that there's free peer tutoring available for all students on campus in their courses.
Awesome. I think I have some questions that I can also answer here. So I'll just kind of throw in some. So someone was asking, does applying early action, if reinstated, affect chances of admission? The answer is no. We review applications during the early action period the same as we would during the regular period. Let's see. Another question is material from previous applications considered in the current admission cycle? So basically, if you reapply, you're more than welcome to. We do want to see that there's some growth there, that it's not just the same exact application that you admitted prior, but there are some differences there, and that there's some new experiences as well. Trying to see if there's anything else. I can also ask some questions out loud. So someone had asked, when students are upperclassmen, how do they join eating clubs? Is it like the residential colleges where students are automatically put in one?
Without getting too in-depth into this, there are bicker clubs and sign-in clubs. Sign-in clubs, you sign up for the club, put your name on the list, and you're in the club. Bicker clubs, it is more of a joining and application process, which involves, a few days of meeting members and various games and things. But I wouldn't worry too much about that until you're a member of the community.
Yeah, and that process starts, like Brad and I are sophomores and we haven't even begun that process, so it's not something you really need to worry about now. It's something you'll learn more about as you're a freshman at Princeton and even as a sophomore, because it is later in your time as a Princeton student.
And I think we'll try and get in one last question. Let's see. One is, how do Princeton's writing seminars help shape the culture of Princeton's campus?
I think one of the things that is sort of special about the writing seminars is that it's sort of, I believe, one of the, if not the only course that all students have to take. And it really leads to a community of like, we're in this together, that everyone has to take the writing seminars. We've been stressing throughout this tour, everyone at Princeton is doing different things. But having that sort of writing seminar that everyone is taking leads to a lot of, I guess, understanding between students. Like everyone knows that you have to write these papers, you have to do these readings, because writing seminar is one of the harder classes at Princeton. But because everyone's taking it, there's a lot of collaboration in it. There's a lot of discussion, a lot of peer editing for a lot of the papers that you have to write and stuff like that. And yeah, I guess that is one way, at least, that the writing seminar contributes to the campus community.
It also just provides a framework for expectations in terms of written work. And the writing seminar encompasses many different topics. For instance, mine was about infectious diseases, immunizations, and all things like that, which all of a sudden became very relevant. So you are going to learn how to write well, as every academic student needs to do, but you're also going to be in a small class, about 10 or 12 students, and research some very interesting topics.
Yeah.
Also, just one last one. I know I said the other one was my last one, but Another question is, does the core curriculum, so does the distribution requirements differ for engineering students? And if so, by how much?
So there are some differences. One of the most notable that comes to my mind is that non-engineering students, so AB students, have to fulfill an language requirement, so they have to be proficient in a language other than English before they graduate, whereas engineering students do not have that requirement. Another thing is that engineers have a little bit more flexibility with their distribution requirements. So I know for non-engineers, there's a list of requirements you have to fulfill. It's like 2 in the literature and arts, I think 2 social analysis, something like that. Whereas for engineers, you have all the different distribution requirement categories, and you have to take 7 courses in those categories before you graduate, but you have more flexibility as to how many in each category and stuff like that. The requirement for engineers is that you have to span 4 of the distribution requirement categories. And once you take at least 1 course in 4 different categories, then you can take the remaining 3 courses for your requirement in any of the categories that you want. Besides that, I think another difference is that the engineering degree has a lot of prerequisites. All the freshmen in the engineering department have to fulfill a year of physics, a semester of chemistry, a semester of computer science, and a couple of semesters of math. So those requirements you can sometimes fulfill with AP credit coming in from high school. But a lot of the freshmen in the BSE or the engineering department are often taking those same prerequisites, whereas the AB students, which are the non-engineers again, don't have those prerequisites.
Thank you. So just to close, I want to thank Brad and Emilio. Thank you so much for being wonderful students and providing a lot of your context into the Princeton experience. I want to thank my colleague, Jake, for helping to answer a lot of those questions. And I also just want to end with, please explore our website. There are a lot of resources on there. Some of the questions that I saw came through. A lot of that can be answered through our student blogs. A lot of our student bloggers are writing about all the questions that you're asking about. So if you do want that student context and you're not going to do another information session or anything like that, feel free to check out those blogs as well. And also, if you look on our virtual visit section of our website, you are also able to join in with our talk, our talks with our current students. And that is going to be without parents and guardians, without admission officers and things like that. So you can really get that authentic experience. So thank you to everyone. And please have a wonderful rest of your day. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you all.